Ivermectin, it's a wonderful drug. In fact, it is so good that in 2015, researchers were awarded the Nobel Prize for its discovery. Satoshi Omura, a chemist in Japan, was investigating a type of bacterium called streptomyces, and from it he isolated a number of compounds that were then further studied by William Campbell, an Irish-born American parasitologist. And Campbell discovered that one of the compounds in streptomycin extract, ivermectin, was very effective against parasitic diseases. He modified the structure of the molecule a little bit and came up with ivermectin. This proved to be extremely effective at the treatment of river blindness. That's a terrible tropical disease causing numerous cases of blindness. It is a worm that is actually transmitted by a type of black fly, but ivermectin is very, very effective against it. Usually when researchers discover efficacy in one condition, they go into the lab to see whether or not the drug might be useful for other conditions as well. And that's exactly what they did in this case. Well, of course, antiviral drugs are very much sought after, and indeed it turned out that in vitro, that is in the laboratory, in cell cultures, in petri dishes, ivermectin turned out to be effective, but at a very, very high dose. Nevertheless, this was enough to stimulate human clinical trials, especially in the face of COVID, to see whether or not ivermectin would be useful. Unfortunately, it turns out that when the Cochrane collaboration, which is based on evidence and scientists looking at the evidence, and these are experts from around the world who look at studies, they concluded, unfortunately, that there was insufficient evidence that ivermectin worked against the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Indeed, they also pointed out that the major study on which the emphasis had been based had been retracted because of various irregularities. Nevertheless, this did not stop the off-label prescribing of ivermectin, and there are many people who are taking it and are pushing their physicians to prescribe it based on contrarian physicians' advice on the internet and then various kind of bloggers. And indeed, this has resulted in some cases of overdose, where people are showing up in emergency rooms because of the toxic effects of ivermectin. So what can we say at this point? The evidence just is not there. And this has stimulated the CDC, who of course are accused by all of these bloggers as trying to sweep the information under the carpet for whatever reason. Makes no sense. I mean, regulatory agencies would be delighted if there were a simple solution to COVID. Anyway, all of this has stimulated the CDC to put out a rather unusual notice, telling people, you are not a horse, you are not a cow. You all now just stop it, referring to the unregulated use of ivermectin. Now, there are other studies that are going on. And should some of these supply information that shows that ivermectin is indeed somehow beneficial, the CDC will take that advice and stew over it, analyze it, and see what new information has been garnered. And should there be a need to revise the opinion, they will do that. That's the way science works. And that is our Cup of Joe for today.